Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey. Today I'm sharing with you 4 looks using the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. I meant to get this video up sooner, but with the holidays and the new year, it just didn't happen, so I hope this video isn't too irrelevant now. With that being said, this is one of the very few palettes released in 2021 that really caught my eye and that I purchased shortly after it was released, and I regret nothing. It is so beautiful. As always, there will be timestamps in the description box below. You can jump around to whichever look you're interested in. I've also included swatches of the palette. Let me know your favorite look down below. Also let me know if you picked up this palette and what you think. I hope you enjoy. For the first look, I'm going to start by taking 2 pieces of tape and using my nose as a guide, I'm going to line up the tip of my nose with the outer corner of my eye to create the perfect outer corner wing. It usually takes me a couple tries to get both sides even, so take your time with this step. Or better yet, if you are more skilled than I am, feel free to freehand it. I'm going to start by taking the shade Cherished and using an eyeshadow applicator. I'm going to dust that all over my eyelid. I'm doing this more so to set my eyeshadow primer, but it will be the base color we're working with on the lid. Next, I'm taking the shade Gratitude and I'm blending that all over the outer third of my eyes. I want the very outer corner to be just a bit deeper, so I'm dipping my brush in the shade Mantra and Aura, and I'm really packing that color along the outer corner right up against the tape to really deepen up the wing. Next, I'm going to curl my lashes and apply mascara. I personally like doing this before I work on my lid because I always get mascara smudges on my lid. So if you're following along, feel free to do your mascara whenever you're ready. Next, I'm going to remove the tape, and using my Undone Beauty concealer, I'm going to apply concealer as I usually do. However, I'm going to pay special extra attention to really defining the outer wing. Next, I'm dipping back in the shade Cherish with my eyeshadow applicator, and I'm going to dust that all over my lid to cover up any mascara markings and to just brighten up the color. Next, I'm dipping a pencil brush in the shade Radiate and dusting that on my lower lash line just to smoke it up a bit, and then I'm applying mascara on my lower lashes. I really want my lid color to pop, so I'm priming my lids with my NYX pigment primer, and then using an eyeshadow applicator, I'm applying the shade Joy on both lids. I know I'm one of the very few that likes to work with eyeshadow applicators. I just find them to be the right shape and size to really get all over the lid and to really pack on product. However, feel free to use a brush or a finger, whatever you personally prefer. I'm using my Morphe M321 brush. This is one of the few brushes I'm very picky about because it's just perfect for really packing color on the inner corner. I'm using that brush to lightly buff the shade Joy into my inner corner. Using a clean blender brush, I'm running that through my crease just to make sure everything's well blended. Next, I'm taking my Maybelline Eye Studio Gel Liner and I'm going to line my upper waterline. Then I'm using my Essence Long Lasting Liner in the shade Silky Nude to line my lower waterline. And lastly, I'm going in with a liquid liner to create a wing. Next, using a clean, fluffy blending brush, I'm taking the shade Moon Magic and dusting that along my brow bone and a little bit on the inner corner of my eye. Then I just couldn't help myself, I needed a little bit more sparkle. So using my e.l.f. liquid glitter shadow in the shade Flirty Birdie, I applied just a little bit on the inner corner of my eye and gently patted it out with my finger to create a little bit of a glitter gradient. And we have the completed look. For look number 2, I started out with the tape trick I did in look 1. I filmed these looks over the course of a week and I didn't realize that I started each one with a tape trick, so I apologize for that. I'll be more mindful to not do that with every single look moving forward. Feel free to skip the tape trick if you wish, you'll still get a very similar look. To start, I'm taking the shade Cherish and I'm dusting that all over my eyelids to set my eyeshadow primer and to give us a base color for the lids. Next, using a clean blender brush, I'm dipping in the shade Radiate and Precious and blending that on the outer third of my eyelids. I really want the outer corner of my eyelids to be smoky, so I'm using my e.l.f. No Budge retractable liner in the shade Charcoal to line my upper lash line, and then I'm going to smudge it out. However, I don't recommend this eyeliner. I find it to be quite stiff. There are definitely better ones on the market. This is just the only gray liner I happen to have, and I didn't want to go as dark as a black liner. Next, I forgot to show the shadows I used, but using a flat shader brush, I dipped it in the shade Mantra and Precious, and I'm tapping that on top of the liner just to smoke it out so it isn't so harsh. Next, I'm going to curl my lashes and apply mascara. And then it is time to remove the tape and clean up any fallout. I'm going back in with my e.l.f. charcoal liner and lining the outer third of my lower lash line and then gently patting it out with my finger to keep it a little bit smudgy. Next, I dipped my flat shader brush in the shade Precious and I'm tapping that right on top of the liner I just laid down, again just to soften it. Using a clean flat shader brush, I'm dipping it in the shade Cherished and I'm dusting that on the inner 2/3 of my lower lash line to keep it nice and bright. Next, I'm applying concealer as I usually do, paying extra special attention to really clean up the outer wing. I also went ahead and applied my blush and bronzer. Next, using my Maybelline gel liner, I'm lining my upper waterline. Using an eyeshadow applicator, I dipped into the shade Happiness and I'm running that across my lids. Next, I prime my lids with my NYX pigment primer, and then using my finger, I dipped into the shade Self Love and patted that on top of the primer, really trying to focus on the inner corner of my eye as well. Using my finger again, I'm patting in the shade Blissful and patting that right in the center of my eyelids. The shade is so pretty. Next, using my Lauren Conrad liquid liner, I'm creating a wing on both eyes. And I'm also going to line my lower waterline with my Essence liner in the shade Silky Nude. I really want my waterline to pop and to stay bright, and so I took a flat shader brush and dipped that in the shade Cherish, and I'm lightly tapping that on top of the liner I just laid down. Just like anything else, setting your liner with a powder will help it last a little bit longer. However, be very careful in doing so. It's very easy to get powder into your eyes. Lastly, I'm taking a clean blender brush and running that through my creases to ensure everything's well blended. And we have the completed look. For the next look, I'm taking the shade Radiate and dusting that on the outer 2/3 of my eye. I want to deepen up that very outer corner just a bit more, so I'm dipping my brush in both the shades Precious and Mantra and buffing that right along the edge of the tape to create a nice blended gradient. Next, I'm taking my Pixie Endless Silky Eye Pen in the shade Black Caviar, which is a deep, almost black brown, and I'm going to create a little bit of a wing right along the edge of the tape, and I'm going to gently smudge it out with my finger. Next, I'm dipping back into the shade Mantra and Precious and blending that over the eyeliner I just laid down just to make it nice and smoky. With an eyeshadow applicator, I'm dipping in the shade Abundance and placing that all over my eyelids. And then with that blender brush I was using previously, I'm going to blend over the outer corner of my eye once more just to ensure that it stays nice and smoky. Next, I'm going to curl my lashes and apply mascara and then remove the tape. I experienced a bit more fallout this time around, I suppose because we're using a darker shade. Next, with a pencil brush, I'm taking the shade Gratitude and running that along the outer 2/3 of my lower lash line. I'm going to apply concealer as I normally would, again ensuring I clean up right along the outer corner of my eye to really define that wing. Next, I'm taking my Nabla Cupid Zero eyeliner in the shade number 7. It's like a rich, warm brown, almost a red brown, and I'm going to use that to line my waterline. This look is going to be a little bit smoky, a little bit more sultry than the last two. This color in the waterline really gives me that look. Then to create a bit more depth on the lower lash line, I'm carefully dabbing it on the outer corner and then blending it out with my pencil brush. I wanted to warm the look up just a little bit just to tie together the lower lash line, so I'm dipping a clean blender brush in the shade Gratitude and very light-handedly running that through my crease. Next, again using my finger, I'm dipping back into the shade Abundance and patting that on my eyelid just to really enhance the vibrancy of that shade. I felt this look needed one last final touch, so using a Q-tip, I dipped in the shade Energize and I'm putting that right on the inner corner of my eye. Because Energize is so vibrant and so metallic, I took a clean blender brush to lightly buff it out and blend it into my inner corner. Probably doesn't look like much on camera, but I swear this final touch was really what the look needed. It gave it the final Casey touch, and we have the completed look. For the last look, I'm going to start by taking my bronzer and running that through my crease and a little bit on my lower lash line. I'm using the Ofra bronzer in the shade Versatile Matte. Then using an eyeshadow applicator, I'm patting it both in the shade Gratitude and Aura, and I'm running that all over both of my lids. Then I'm taking the blender brush I used with my bronzer and running that through my crease to ensure everything's well blended. Next, I'm taking my Nabla Cupid's Arrow in the shade number 7, and I'm placing this on my upper lash line on the outer corner of my eye, and then blending it in with my finger. Next, I'm curling my lashes and applying mascara. I'm going to prime both of my eyelids with my NYX Pigment Primer, and then I'm dipping my finger in the shade Moon Magic, and I'm going to place that right on top of the primer. Next, using a flat shader brush, I'm dipping in the shade Aura and lightly dusting that on my lower and upper lash line just to deepen things up. To finish the eye look, I'm going to line my lower waterline with my Essence Long Lasting Liner in the shade Silky Nude. Being this is my last look and I felt that I used a majority of the shades in the palette, there's one shade I really wanted to experiment with, and that was a Love Stone. So I decided to use it as a glossy highlighter on my cheeks and brow bone. It added a very light purple pink ethereal shimmer to my cheeks. We're just about done with the look, and I decided to pop the shade Love Stone on my lips as well. And we have the completed look.